we're back. Welcome in. It's official visit weekend number 2. Brian Etheridge and myself, Grayson Grunhafer, we will be recapping it a little bit for y'all this morning. Another exciting weekend, and momentum on the recruiting trail continues for the Bears as they landed another commitment on Friday, on the first day, just like they did in weekend number 1. I think we're expecting a little bit more to come as well, but just once again, this staff absolutely doing a great job once they get recruits on campus. Baylor fans got to be really excited right now with what the class is doing and where it currently is at. But first, Brian, how are you doing this morning?
Pretty good. I mean, outside of the AC going out in the house, It's been a pretty good day. So not a bad drive, easy in. Come in, make it we'll see what kind of commits happen today.
Yeah, it's been a fun couple weeks, that's for sure. We've had a lot of fun camps, official visits. It's kind of coming to a close as July 4th is approaching, and of course the dead period is approaching as well.
Yep.
So definitely something to keep an eye on, but I think for this purpose, let's start with how the weekend began. Last weekend, big old boy Trey Emery gave his commitment to the Bears. We talked about him last weekend, and this weekend the exact same story happened as Neville High School defensive tackle, probably going to be a nose tackle for Baylor, in a sledge out of Louisiana, a kid who came to camp, the first camp of the year, June 5th, I believe, was the date for that one. Really impressed, both you and I, and he was very, very good on that day, very dominant, very twitchy for his size, and a guy who I think fits in very nicely with what Dave Aranda and Ron Roberts are trying to do on the defensive line.
I agree. I mean, he's very fluid in the hips. He's a large body. He's listed at 6'4", 300. I think he's probably 6'3", probably
310.
310.
Yeah.
So it's a guy that can fill out to 330, play the nose, plays the nose right now in high school. He'll be a guy who occupies blockers and allows little linebackers to run. He has he is a huge body. When we saw him, we were like, man, is that a JUCO kid? And it wasn't. It was a high school kid. So that was the one thing that we noticed about him as soon as he got at the camp. He was like one of the biggest kids out there. And Caden Saraki was there that day, and others. He's not as tall as Saraki, but he's wider.
Yeah, and we noticed him immediately. Great size, and also coming out of Louisiana. A lot of times those kids are a little bit more underdeveloped than Texas kids, I would say. And so a great opportunity for him, I think, to grow in the Baylor program. And I think he's going to be able to put on the weight that they need for the nose tackle position. I think you and I have talked about this before. There are two lines of thinking. Obviously, Bravion Roy would fit this scheme very well.
Yes.
He would fit this, especially his senior year.
Yes.
Years before that, maybe a little iffy, but his senior year for sure, because he was not only just a mountain of a man and was such an impactful guy in the run game, but he could also get into the backfield. And I would say that Apuaika is going to bring more of that to the table. And I think Ennis Sledge will bring more of that to the table as well, as far as actually being able to be a pass rusher from the nose tackle position, as opposed to just a big guy stopping the run.
Yeah, I mean, what he wants to do, he wants to get up, and he wants to make the quarterback uncomfortable.
Right.
Up straight in his face. And that's the kind of guy, when you're 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", 330 pounds, and you can push that center back into the quarterback, you're going to make his decisions either happen quicker or be a bad decision.
And demand double teams.
Correct. Yeah. And so that's the one thing about it. If that's the case, if the guard has to pull off, then you're one-on-one with your other end, and where's the linebacker going to shoot the gap or come around the edge? It just opens up more and more for Dave Aranda's defense.
Absolutely. So he chose Baylor over offers from Kansas State, Marshall, Memphis, Ohio, SMU, Troy. He took West Virginia as well.
Purdue as well.
Yeah, I was going to say he took 2 official visits, one to Indiana, one to Purdue. So both in the Hoosier State. Kind of interesting that he went up to those 2 places.
Those two schools recruit Louisiana quite a bit.
Yeah, they do.
So that sort of makes sense. Again,
especially Purdue. Yeah.
For some reason, Louisiana makes defensive linemen.
Yeah.
There's a ton of kids in Louisiana that are 6'2" to 6'5", 300 pounds. Raw. That will go out. I mean, just every time you turn around, there's somebody, it seems like. And like Louisiana Tech will have a guy that go to the NFL, and this is some guy, you're like, well, who was that? He was a 2-star back then. So Baylor is out there mining that area, and they're mining it because of Dave Aranda. And again,
and Dennis Johnson.
Yeah, Louisiana State's the only Power 5 school in Louisiana. There's a reason all these Power 5 kids are going, or these kids are going to Power 5 schools out of Louisiana. Mm-hmm. It just seems like you can go in there and find 15 to 20 kids that are that size. They're going to play guard if they don't work out defensive line, or they're going to be your nose tackle, defensive tackle.
Absolutely. So I would say this commitment right here is kind of a sign in my mind of what Baylor thinks they need on this roster. So Trey Emery and his Sledge both committed on the defensive line. They're the two commits so far up front. I think we both agree Trey Emery can be pretty versatile. I think he can play the defensive tackle role, maybe slide into nose tackle occasionally and eat up a snap or two.
I think he could also play the end.
He could. Yeah, that's true.
He's got the explosion to go out there and play end. So Ennis, he's going to occupy your blockers inside. And that sort of brings us to some other guys here on the visit is like, Calvin Dinkins. He's got that ability too. I think he's the nose tackle type.
I was going to say, I think he's a nose tackle too. So I guess that just makes me think, okay, they really see a need there. They just don't have anyone on the roster. I know Cheedy is a guy who a lot of people are excited about, and I am as well.
But he's a senior.
But he's leaving soon.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to be able to replenish the depth behind Apuaika because, let's be honest, football, you're going to have injuries. You're going to have times where you have to rotate guys in, and so they have to find more options there. So that's what they're trying to do. Calvin Dinkins was on the visit this weekend. Ennis Sledge was on the visit this weekend. Both, I think, fit in at the nose tackle spot very well. And then the other defensive lineman is Cedric Roberts, who I think is more like Trey Emery.
Correct.
The ability to play kind of all three, but probably not going to play the nose tackle, probably going to have to play one of the other two spots.
Yeah, I think, Roberts has, that kind of wingspan. He was committed to Baylor, decommitted, got played a little bit by some schools. It seemed like, I think Boston College is the only one that offered him after he decommitted, when other schools were probably telling him to decommit, and they'd offer, and it didn't happen. So he's on an official visit. We'll see what happens with him if Baylor takes his commitment back. Obviously, they brought him in. They care enough about him with that. They brought him in to talk to him or see where he is, I guess, and get in front of him. I think he has NFL potential
based on what we saw.
With his wingspan and his size. So we'll see what happens with Cedric.
Yeah, absolutely huge kid. We both have gotten to see him in person.
Mm-hmm. Great kid. Just going to see what happens with him.
Yeah, made a tough decision.
Yes,
I would
it
say.
is. It's always tough to commit or decommit. I mean, it's his life, so that's he's going to. We'll see where Baylor stands with him after this.
Right, and people don't understand that sometimes affects both sides. It's not always just, he made the decision, so the team is always going to want them back no matter what. That is not always the case. We'll see what happens with Cedric. This is a big weekend, though, in my opinion. I don't think he can wait around and push this out very long. I know Baylor just had R.J. Moss on a unofficial, so that's another guy that they're targeting in 2022. So
it's another 4-star. I mean, they're getting these kids on campus, and R.J. Moss is a stud.
He's a stud.
I mean, does it come down to Cedric Roberts and R.J. Moss?
It's
or Derrick Brown, right? I mean, those guys sort of play similar positions a little bit. RJ's about 6'4", about 240. He might play the jack position.
I see him more as I think he'll be a true defensive lineman.
You think so?
I'm pretty. That's what he.
I probably think so too. But again, if he showed up and he was 220,
well, that would be an issue. Yeah, and the other part about it is they did have him on campus.
Yes, they did.
And they did see him train. So they know where he's at. They know where he's at. So I do think, but to your point, I mean, if you're looking at Cedric Roberts, I think this is a situation where you better jump aboard. Mm-hmm. Because if not, Baylor's going to look for other best player available types, and you might get left behind. And that's just simply, that can happen sometimes.
Is the train's filling up?
Yep, it absolutely is.
I mean, we're
rapidly.
15, right? Baylor's at 15
16.
right now? 16?
Right. Wasn't Sledge? No, Sledge is 15.
He's 15, but there's 16 out there on a tweet, so someone else is committed. we're not exactly.
I think
sure
there's going to
yet.
be more than that too.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're probably going to have 3 today.
Whew. Okay, so let's move on to kind of the other spots that we looked at. Obviously, I'll just mention really quickly the 3 commits: Bryce Simpson, Kyler Jordan, Carmelo Jones. All appear to be locked in. I don't see any wavering from any of the 3 of them.
No, the only one we haven't seen in person, I guess, is Kyler Jordan. We've met Kyler; he's come to the studio, but we have not seen him.
Yeah, we have.
I didn't. Where do we see
We
him?
have. We have. You don't remember? Yeah, I don't blame you. It was a while ago.
Oh, okay. I was talking about this year.
Oh, this year, no.
This year.
We saw him the year earlier at Under Armour. If you remember, we saw him, and he was a lot smaller, a lot lighter. But yes, so we've seen all 3 perform to a certain extent. But yes, this year we got to see Bryce and Carmelo at the Under Armour that took place.
Correct him. That was the first camp after COVID.
I know.
It was still COVID, but
Up at Arlington Martin.
yeah, that was a good one. And we got to see Bryce. I still think Bryce is an offensive tackle at this point to guard. He'll slide in either right tackle or offensive
He is
guard.
a tackle in this class.
Yeah, and I think he has great length. That's the one thing about him that I like. And then Carmelo's the jack position. He's 6'2", 6'3", 210-ish right now.
He's a pure jack.
He's a pure jack, but he comes in out of West Orange Stark. He's gonna grow. He was thin at that, but had a good frame. He's gonna be somebody who grows into that position. And when we saw Clavon Chasen as a junior, he was that size. And then Clavon was 245 or so at LSU.
Probably a little taller.
No, he's about 6'3" as well.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
that's where it was always funny because I think Colt and I were at that camp in Houston, and Clavon walked up with his Baylor gloves on, and then all hell broke loose, and didn't happen. So that was that class.
Yeah, so those are the 3 commits on campus. Let's talk offense really quick.
Okay.
So the 2 offensive prospects who are not committed are DJ Allen out of Gladewater and Alvin Ebosele out of Coppell. Both have been major priorities for this staff for the longest time, really. I mean, both guys have been absolute must-gets. Alvin, of course, the left tackle that they're hoping will be in this class. They don't have a true left tackle committed.
Nope.
I don't even think they have one that's even close to being a left tackle. I think it's debatable whether they have a right tackle. We think
Simpson,
Bryce, but I just mean a surefire, he's for sure going to play tackle.
Yep.
I don't know that they have that. So it makes this really, really important for this class. And then DJ, just a really explosive weapon at the wide receiver position, a guy who I firmly believe could be kind of a difference maker for that group. A high-end 4-star guy would be one of the top-rated guys in the class if he were to commit to Baylor. So what are your thoughts on those 2 after this weekend?
I mean, Alvin, he's 6'6", 6'7", long.
310.
310-ish. There's not bad body fat on the kid. He is just a great looking kid. He's a great kid too. I mean, out of Coppell, when he came in back in March. I think we had at studio was great. We measured him then. He was over 6'6". He was 310 back then. Long arms, big, huge hands. Just somebody that is. Look at it and you go, wow, yeah, you're a left tackle. And then we saw him at the Under Armour camp, and his feet moved as a left tackle as well. He wasn't slow-footed. He wasn't someone we had to worry about as going, well, maybe your feet, you can't get out to somebody. He took all comers. He didn't back away from anybody at that camp, and there were some 5-star guys that wanted a piece of everybody, and he did well against them all. Yeah. So that was I really like Alvin. I mean, I think that's a future NFL guy. You develop him as long as he doesn't get injured. He's somebody that is going to play there.
To me, he's the higher floor Elijah Ellis.
Yeah, he's that athletic too. Yeah,
and the higher floor. So
and he's more developed in.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, higher floor and in
the ceiling is right there.
Yeah,
right there with him.
I mean, you say NFL player, that's a huge ceiling.
Oh yeah, massive. So he was a huge one. Then DJ Allen is the other one. Obviously, Baylor's in good shape at the wide receiver position. With Jordan Neighbors, Caleb Douglas is in the mix, Jaden Gibson's in the mix, and DJ Allen. You would think 3 of the 4 is what they're going for in this class. And then obviously there's also a transfer that's kind of out there as well. But we know they want 3 in this class.
Yeah,
at minimum.
And Allen is a great prospect to get. He is physical. He's fast. He's everything you look for in a receiver. Again, though, it's going to be really tough to find out which 3 it is. You got to get on board. Again, or you might not have a spot.
Right, and for me, this one seems like it's coming to an end soon.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think DJ's going to wait a long time. He's taken, I think, 2 or 3 of his official visits already. So I just think this decision's coming soon. I think Caleb Douglas's decision is coming soon. The one that's kind of out there that whether I think Baylor's in the lead for Jaden Gibson or not really doesn't matter. Just from my perspective, I think it might take him longer to make a decision. But on the flip side, I also think of these wide receivers in the class, I think he's probably the one who they would say, okay, we're going to wait for you all the way until
he's 6'5",
February.
6'6". I mean, he's amazing, and that's getting a kid out of Florida, away from Florida State, Miami.
Right. You have to take him, and that's kind of where
he's
that goes.
He's a physical freak. Of these other guys are not 6'6".
Yeah,
and that's the one thing about him. He actually made it's a picture of him.
Kyle Roberts Day.
Yeah, look
short.
Yeah, I mean, but he's 6'3", 6'4". So anytime you get somebody that size, I mean, it's just a freakish thing where you can go do things with him that you can't do it if 5'10", 5'11",
exactly.
or 6 foot.
And they've been looking for guys like that. That's the other problem. They've been looking for big wide receivers. So flipping over the defensive side, we've already talked about the defensive line. So let's talk a little bit about Derrick Brown, one of the highest profile guys on campus, the second highest rated behind DJ Allen, top 300 player, a guy Baylor's been talking to for a long time. Great relationship with Joey McGuire. And he took his official visit to Baylor. He already took one to Texas as well.
Yep. Did he take one to OU, or is that one planned?
OU is planned. That will be during the season. Kind of a weird timing thing there. I don't know if he commits before then, if he'll wait, or what his plan is with that. But yes, Derrick Brown was on campus, very good prospect, got to see him in person, was very, very good at the Under Armour camp, and just continues to impress me. He was a guy that I've been very high on for a long time.
Same.
And I know you have as well. Since we saw him, we were like, man, great size, great explosiveness.
Length, everything you're looking for, and somebody that the only question could be, is he a jack or is he an end?
Yeah, at 220. I think you and I both agree probably a jack.
Correct. But then again, he could come in here, go to the bank, and be 270 before you know it. I mean, that's happened. I mean, Garmin Randolph is proof of the bank, right?
Yeah, he gets overlooked a little bit because of his teammate Clayton Smith, who's going to Oklahoma. Baylor recruited him pretty hard as well. So I think this is going to be a huge year for him. I think he's going to blow up, have the massive stat year for him. So Derrick Brown, big-time prospect, another one. I think Baylor's made up a lot of ground with him. I would say Baylor's always been in that top 3 range, but I think they might have pushed the ceiling a little bit and might have pushed all the way up to number 1.
I think things were trending in a good direction for him this weekend. Correct. And again, you're on official visit, so you have that official visit high, but it is trending in the right direction.
So 3 more guys that we need to quickly talk about in the secondary: Jalen Peoples, Corey Gordon, Jeremiah Cooper. Those are the 3 names to kind of talk about. Jalen Peoples, obviously a guy who we've been waiting to figure out what he's going to do. So that's a huge decision that I think will be coming soon. Kansas got a lot of momentum. Tech got a lot of momentum last weekend, and now Baylor seems like possibly back in the driver's seat after this weekend.
Yeah, I think he's saying 12:30 today, which so we'll see. The one thing is, we put our predictions on him in February and haven't changed them.
Not a bit
for Baylor. So that's where we are with Jalen Peoples. I mean, he's a 6-foot corner out of Cedar Hill, can run, do everything you need to do. So he's a definite take.
Yeah, and then Gordon and Cooper, Corey Gordon out of Oklahoma, Jeremiah Cooper out of Andres High School out in West Texas.
Yeah, in El Paso.
Yeah, right by El Paso there. So those 2 guys on campus as well. Gordon, more of a high free safety, probably in the JT Woods mold.
Yeah, I mean, 6'2", 175, 180 type kid. He plays a lot of basketball. So sort of like Orion Stewart to me.
Yeah.
That's how I see him right now. I mean, he's still raw. Mm-hmm. He still has the ability to grow, get bigger, and also if he concentrates just on football instead of playing everything like he plays up at Putnam City, he's gonna be a good player down the road.
And then Jeremiah Cooper is probably a star role position. Baylor obviously missed on their top star target. Jared Kerr decided to go to Texas A&M. Unfortunate miss there. Jeremiah Cooper could be a replacement for him. Possibly. I don't know. We'll see what happens there, but I kind of think Baylor might continue to evaluate options at that position.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They get, Cooper on campus. You find out how big he is. Does he fit the role? What does he come in at? Do they think his frame can handle it? Again, you're talking about a kid from El Paso, and this is a great opportunity. He's a great player. It's going to be interesting to see what happens if he does commit, or where he commits, or where he goes next, or if he schedules other visits. But I think this is one of the things as Baylor builds a relationship with him, this is where you go.
Absolutely. So that's a quick recap of what went on this weekend. Official visit weekend number 2. Great momentum for the Baylor staff continues. The recruiting class looks great.
Yep.
And that's going to be it for the month of June. And so now we're about to hit a dead period. The Baylor staff's going to continue to work, but a lot of their focus is going to be on later classes and, of course, the actual football season. So for now, this has been Brian Etheridge and Grayson Grunhafer on SicEm365.com.